I think with this new teaser from Project Playtime, it's actually hinting at a much darker secret that's lurking within Poppy Playtime Chapter 3. Hello everyone and welcome to another video on Poppy Playtime, and yes, as you can imagine, today we are going to be talking about the new teaser images that have come from Project Playtime, and I actually do think these images hold a good chunk of information that I really wanted to take today to talk about. Granted, I'm a little bit late, but one has been busy. But of course, before we go any further, I would just like to remind you that if you do enjoy Poppy Playtime content, make sure you hit subscribe, because as usual, we are covering Poppy Playtime in all its glory, be that Project Playtime teasers, little bits here and there, Poppy Playtime, of course, every chapter. And if it takes your fancy, I cover lots of other games as well. But of course, this video is also going to contain spoilers for Poppy Playtime, Project Playtime, and of course the new images, so if you want to go check them out, I have put a link in the description. But with that being said, let's actually get into this video. So in the last day or two, we've seen 3 new images come from Project Playtime, and where they have teased part of Phase 2. Now, for those who don't know Project Playtime, Phase 2 is referring to the Season 2 and the Toy Pass, if you will, which is going to contain new things like maps and lots of cosmetics, and even more emotes and gestures. Anyway, the first image that they showed us was part of the new level. At first, this level was going to be called Recycle Mill. The new map has now been called Destroyer Toy, which is very on theme lately of names for Playtime Co. As you recall, in Chapter 1 we had to use the Maker Friend to get further in Chapter 1. In this image we can see under the belly of Destroyer Toy, and first off I would just like to mention that the shot is absolutely beautiful. All the assets in the scene look like a really high quality, and not to mention the detail on the walls. I think the whole scene is just dressed absolutely to perfection, especially with the lighting. Again, great shout for the lighting artist on the game, it looks amazing. And also, they've added a lot of depth this time around. I mean, everything you can see there, you can't necessarily explore, but you can see a clear cut to where the player can run around in this part of the level. But then you can also see they've built on top of that by giving it a few environmental details. So not forgetting the actual mechanics in Project Playtime. The grab handle, for instance, on the wall right next to the valves. The shot looks like it's been taken from the underfloor, from where we see later on in the teasers, if you will. So it's safe to say these maps are becoming more tight spaced, and this in turn will create a more tense experience for the chasers and the player. And then in the next image we look to be looking at another shot from the underground side of the level, just from a different perspective, if you will. I think it might even be rotated somewhat. But in the shot in particular, we get a real beautiful shot of the lighting and the bloom and the smoke like gas that seems to be spilling in the area. But let's talk about that for a moment, because this is where I believe it gets really interesting. The gas, I believe, could be linked towards Chapter 3. And I say this because of the ventilation system that it seems to be in place in this map. I think part of this facility, while of course destroying the toy, is also to funnel out and filter the gas that's created further down in Playtime Co. And this is where I wanted to point out the next image too, the Destroyer Toy main area image. Now, with what I was just thinking about in mind, take a look at the ceiling. This looks to be surface level. Perhaps we could be looking at where some of the chimneys originate from the original image of the front of Playtime Co. from Chapter 1. More to the point, with this in mind, you have to think how much ventilation and filtration that the gas would have to go through before it's allowed to pollute the air. So it's no wonder that the gas that we see doesn't really have a colour, it looks more like a smoke, because of how it's filtered. And of course, I imagine Playtime Co. are trying to keep the authorities or any environmental agency off their back. Because I don't know about you, but if I was living in a close radius, I wouldn't want to know what they're burning. I don't think it's just people. But I do want to reiterate why I think the gas is coloured, and mainly this is because it was shown to us in the Bunzo comic, as it was depicted green, and not a very pleasant scent. Not to mention, the teaser of Chapter 3, it was coloured red. So, perhaps maybe there isn't just one gas that's being used throughout Playtime Co. and Playcare for Chapter 3. Perhaps they have many gas concoctions for different types of toys and people and, you know, everything in between in Playtime Co. So perhaps all these colours are meaningless. It's the fact that this filtration is very strong and it has to remove all these sort of chemicals and odours and coloration and things like that. So again, it would really emphasise on the idea that the filtration is the main point of the area next to the chimneys, because of course, as we know, chimneys are often used as like an exhaust, if you will, for a factory. It's purposely there to expel these fumes and this toxicity, if you will. But something else that's very interesting regarding this image teaser of Destroyer Toy, and it's the fact they are destroying toys. Perhaps when this level was originally planned out, its original name, Recycle Mill, was more fitting. But now with the name change, you have to wonder why did they take a darker turn with it. And I believe it all ties together with how much they're showing us with all these toys and how dark all these experiments are becoming. And how these toys might have or will have someone's consciousness inside them, as we've seen with the Bronn Experiment 1199, as we've not seen yet with the children from the orphanage program. For Playtime Co, this would have been an excellent way to cover up anything or anyone. And if any of the staff members weren't 100% behind what they were doing, they'd also be thrown in too. And we all know at this point Harley would have probably been most effective around his employment around now from what we're being shown. And of course he created the Bigger Bodies initiative, but it wouldn't matter who it was, be that an orphan or child or a not so happy employee that would have been against the practice of Playtime Co, they'd all face the same fate. But perhaps this is where it gets dark. Now of course, we don't know fully the process of the recycling or destroying a toy. Just because of the name recycling, I actually do believe they start reusing parts of these toys. Now, how do we know that when these toys are destroyed, the consciousness is destroyed with it, the essence goes with destroying these toys? How do we not know they pass over to the new host? And I know it sounds absolutely crazy, but what if there are more than one consciousness in one toy? Again, because of the original name, my first thought was they're going to reuse these parts because they've done it once before, they're going to be able to do it again. And like I said, what if the remains and the remnants of other people or children are still within these toys getting mashed together with this new host? And on top of that, with the poppy seed and all that, that's recipe for real disaster, and not to mention a real dark chapter. But with the way that Mob Games have been entertaining and informing us that the chapter is just much darker and it relies on a lot of sound and visuals, sounds is a weird one to include there, because of course everyone knows that sounds really ties up a game's polished together. But with the recent teasers and the distortion within the VHSs, does that add up those overlapping screams that we hear? Perhaps, for instance, with the VHS with Huggy, he's lost it completely because, again, there's more than one inside of Huggy. Those distant screams are a layer upon layer of different people and persons within that toy screaming inside, not being able to express and not being able to figure out what's going on. And thus, Huggy is left to his own devices to behave the way he erratically behaves. I think it's a really interesting thought, but I'm hoping in the next few teasers, or if we get a trailer sometime soon, or anything, any content at all, this might shed some light on it, because I do think we might be onto something there. But of course, I would love to hear your ideas. Let me know if I really am losing the plot, or if you think, hey, that actually makes kind of sense. Let me know your theories and ideas of what this all could lean to. I really enjoyed the new Project Playtime teasers. I'm really looking forward to the next season, especially with all the extra cosmetics and stuff, especially what was recently teased on Discord and stuff. So again, really look forward to that. And of course, again, if you enjoy Project Playtime and all that jazz, make sure you hit like, subscribe, do all the usual stuff. But more importantly, have a lovely day, morning or night, wherever you are in the world. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Stay safe, and I'll see you all in the next Theory video.